Florida's new parental rights in education law is being called the Don't Say Gay law by the left and the anti-grooming law by the right. So what's really going on? Welcome to America Uncovered. I'm Matt Gnezda, filling in today for Chris Chappell. Not to get too alarmist, but they're coming for your children. Although, if you just spent the last 2 years stuck indoors with your children, you're probably thinking, take them, please take them. So how are they coming for your children? And who are they? Well, it depends who you ask. Last week, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis signed the Parental Rights in Education bill into law. You may know it as the Don't Say Gay bill. That's what many in the liberal media have been calling it, from the Associated Press to USA Today to the New York Times to Forbes to ABC to NPR. You get the gist. Why is everyone afraid of Don't Say Gay? Maybe because if they say it 3 times, they'll summon gay Beetlejuice. Critics of the law say it will harm LGBTQ youth by shunning representation and inclusion in classrooms, putting the mental health and safety of this group at risk. Meanwhile, many on the right call it an anti-grooming bill, one that's meant to protect young children from coercive leftist theories on gender and sex. So, are either of those things true? Let's start with what people on the left are saying about the law. By calling it the Don't Say Gay law, opponents imply it prevents teachers in Florida from talking about anything gay-related. Or as Saturday Night Live presented it,
the law actually means that you can't acknowledge that gay exists at all.
It'll be hard for Florida to acknowledge that gay doesn't exist at all, though, considering Key West and South Beach are 24/7 pride parades. The White House said Florida's law attacks LGBTQI+ kids and makes growing up harder, which would be doubly challenging because remember, these kids already have to face growing up in Florida.
What we're looking at here is a bill that would propagate misinformed, hateful policies and impact children. A bill that would discriminate against families, against kids, put these kids in a position of not getting the support they need at a time where that's exactly what they need. Is discriminatory, it's a form of bullying, it is horrific.
A rep for ACLU Florida said it's meant to stigmatize LGBTQ youth and family members and to make teachers fearful of providing a welcoming and inclusive classroom. Advocacy organization Equality Florida said it effectively bans instruction of LGBTQ youth, family, and history in early grades and regulates it in all grades. They also accused DeSantis of using the legislation to shore up his extremist base. All this sounds pretty bad until you start looking into it and realize that, for example, 61% of all Americans supported the Florida law when they were shown what it actually said. That's according to the right-leaning Public Opinion Strategies poll. And a Politico Morning Consult poll found that 50% of respondents supported banning teaching about sexual orientation and gender identity in kindergarten through 3rd grade versus only 34% who opposed it. In other words, when it comes to this Florida law, people are only afraid of it until they learn what's actually in it. Then it makes them feel better. So it's basically the opposite of hot dogs. But still, many on the left say the bill is a hateful challenge to basic human rights that is supported by extremists and designed to target, stigmatize, and attack LGBTQ kids. It also supposedly prevents school employees from acknowledging that gayness exists or saying the word gay. I'll have what the right says about it right after this short commercial break. Welcome back. The left has been framing a Florida bill and now law as the Don't Say Gay bill. They've called it hateful, a challenge to basic human rights, and say that it's designed to target LGBTQ youth. So what does the right have to say about it? Well, the right has been mainly playing defense to the left's attacks. They accuse the left of using fear-mongering tactics to distort what the bill actually says. Which, even if that's accurate, Politicians accusing other politicians of fear-mongering and lying is like Burger King accusing McDonald's of using heat lamps. You don't have much of a leg to stand on there, since you're about to lose it to diabetes from all the fast food. Anyway, they also accuse opponents of not even having read the bill, which is odd because it's only 7 pages long. That's not legislation I typically call TLDR. Florida Representative Joseph Harding is one of the sponsors of the bill.
I want all kids to feel safe at school, but that also has nothing to do with this bill. House Bill 1557 lets parents access their kids' school records more easily, prevents school districts from adopting policies that keep information away from parents. And here's the controversial part. The bill directs school districts, and I'll quote from the bill right here, to not encourage classroom discussion about sexual orientation or gender identity and primary grade levels.
Representative Harding wants parents to decide what's appropriate for their kids, hence the official name, Parental Rights in Education Law. Harding goes on to explain what exactly the sponsors mean by not encouraging classroom discussion about sexual orientation or gender identity.
The bill is designed to keep school districts from talking about these topics before kids are ready to process them. Kids can and they will talk about whatever they want at school. We just want to make sure teachers promote that discussion at the right age level, and we want to make sure that parents are kept in the loop.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis said one of the reasons this bill is needed is that primary school teachers in Florida were introducing students to the genderbread person. Feel free to pause the video and take a good look. This is the first time I've seen discussion about genitalia on a cookie, outside of a bachelorette party. DeSantis said the misleading way opponents talk about the bill is meant to shift the focus away from what they actually support.
For example, they support sexualizing kids in kindergarten. They support injecting woke gender ideology into second grade classrooms. They support enabling schools to, quote, transition students to a, quote, different gender without the knowledge of the parent, much less without the parent's consent. And so what they're doing with these slogans and these narratives is they are trying to camouflage their true intentions.
And so now some on the right are calling it an anti-grooming bill, including DeSantis' press secretary. And I don't mean grooming like hair. Some Republicans obviously love that type of grooming. In this case, grooming describes how a sexual predator, for example, a pedophile, would prepare their target for sexual contact. So it's like the right looked at what the left was doing and said, hey, they're distorting the truth with a catchy, inflammatory slogan. That's not fair. We should do it too. And while it looks like DeSantis' press secretary was being at least somewhat tongue-in-cheek, I'm not sure using the left's words against them is working out for the right. So is it don't say gay or anti-grooming? What does the bill actually say? I'll tell you after this short commercial break. Welcome back. So what does the Parental Rights in Education Law actually do? Does it prevent teachers from saying gay? Does it protect students from being groomed? Does it summon gay Beetlejuice? The answer is none of the above. I've read the bill, which again is only 7 pages long, and here's what the bill actually says. Classroom instruction by school personnel or third parties on sexual orientation or gender identity may not occur in kindergarten through grade 3 or in a manner that is not age appropriate or developmentally appropriate for students in accordance with state standards. Supporters of the law point out that sexual orientation doesn't just cover talking about being gay. There are other sexual orientations, including being straight. But hey, who said catchy inflammatory slogans were good at giving context? So technically, this could also be called the Don't Say Straight bill. And if you say straight 3 times in a mirror, the ghost of Wilt Chamberlain will appear behind you. Meanwhile, critics of the law point out that the term instruction is vague. Would a kindergarten teacher be prevented from reading the students a book where the main character has 2 dads? The bill's sponsors haven't answered that question. The sponsors of the bill have said that the text of the bill does not prevent teachers from answering questions about, say, a fellow student's 2 mothers. All it does is restrict the official curriculum, which is still vague. At a Florida Senate hearing last month, one senator gave the example of a math problem involving Johnny's 2 dads. Senator Baxley reportedly said that this was exactly what the bill aims to prevent. Because if there's one thing Florida won't stand for, it's math. The law also says that anything that's taught about gender identity and sexual orientation after third grade still has to be age appropriate or developmentally appropriate. Those are subjective measures, though, which is why the law says the Florida Department of Education has to create standards for them by the end of next June, which will be hard because anyone who's eager to help define what is sexually appropriate for elementary school kids maybe shouldn't be within 100 yards of a school. The rest of the bill builds on the Parents' Bill of Rights Florida passed last year. It says parents should be notified if there is a change in the student's services or monitoring related to the student's mental, emotional, or physical health or well-being. That seems targeted at preventing situations like this one. Florida parents said they found out about their 12-year-old daughter's secret gender identity meetings with elementary school employees only after she attempted suicide.
A phone call on January 5th turned into a nightmare for one Clay County family.
Because our daughter attempted suicide by hanging herself in one of the bathrooms of the school.
The father says his daughter attempted suicide after a gender identity crisis, but he claims he never knew because his daughter was having secret meetings with a school guidance counselor.
Those parents are now bringing a federal lawsuit against the school district. Other Florida parents have similarly complained about being left in the dark by their school district.
After many weeks of going back and forth with the district, we learned the middle school had created a transgender, gender nonconforming support plan with our 13-year-old daughter without our knowledge or consent.
The new law also requires parents to sign off on any questionnaire or health screening before it's given to their young child. And finally, it allows parents to file complaints with the school district if the law is being violated and potentially even sue the school district at the district's expense, which isn't even new. Parents complaining and suing is about as American as trying to remain blissfully unaware of what's in hot dogs. All in all, most of it is what it says on the tin, a parental rights and education bill. Unlike a Tennessee bill that literally says, schools shall not locally adopt or use textbooks and instructional materials that promote, normalize, support, or address lesbian, gay, bisexual, or transgender issues or lifestyles. I could be wrong, but I think that's what an actual Don't Say Gay bill looks like. Opponents have called the Florida law a solution without a problem. They say sexual education and gender identity aren't taught in kindergarten through third grade in Florida anyway. And this is just a political issue being pushed by Republicans. That argument sounds like what they say about laws that ban critical race theory. That it totally isn't being taught in K through 12. Well, if you want to know how that argument panned out, watch our episode about critical race theory in schools. In short, critical race theory is not directly being taught to kids. It's technically a college-level course. But the underlying assumptions from critical race theory are being taught in K through 12. Teachers just don't call it critical race theory. So, is this the same kind of argument? Here's the School District of Palm Beach County LGBTQ+ Critical Support Guide. It suggests the following definition for the word transgender for kids in kindergarten through 5th grade. When a baby is born, they are given a gender. Transgender people change their gender once they are old enough to explain to others how they feel about their own gender. This person may change their name and/or pronoun as well. This guide makes it clear that gender is a social construct that is fundamentally different from sex assigned at birth. Now, I'm not saying that these definitions are necessarily wrong, but they are controversial definitions that are directly influenced by gender theory. So, gender theory, like critical race theory, might not be taught directly in elementary schools. But apparently, the gender theory worldview is, even in kindergarten. And many parents would argue that age 5 is a little young to be struggling with the concept of socially constructed gender, especially considering many 5-year-olds still struggle with the concept of going to the bathroom in a toilet instead of their shorts. The Parental Rights in Education bill was signed into law a little over a week ago, and it has already seen its first lawsuit. Remember the organization Equality Florida I mentioned earlier? They're one of the ones suing the state. They say the law is blatantly unconstitutional and that it violates the First and 14th Amendments. The law deliberately employs broad and vague terms, inviting arbitrary and discriminatory enforcement by parents who are designated as roving censors and empowered to sue local school boards for damages based on any violation. So ultimately, this is a case of misinformation versus vague information. No one really knows what's going on, and everyone is angry. Honestly, I can't think of a better representation of the Florida public school system. So, what do you think of the Parental Rights in Education law? Let us know in the comments below. And we could not do this show without the support of viewers like you. YouTube has been demonetizing our videos, and it just continues endlessly. So please head on over to our Patreon page or join us on Locals to help us keep making great episodes. Once again, I'm Matt Ganesta. Thanks for watching America Uncovered.